Okay, it is 11 o'clock, and we are going to get started with our math review lesson. Okay, so for the first 5 minutes or so, we're just going to start with a little bit of recap from yesterday, just so everyone can kind of get logged in if they need to. At least those of you that are going to be here. Hello, Rorik. Nice to see you. I do apologize if this interrupted your lunchtime, but I do appreciate you being here. Now, so yesterday we were working on place value. Let me write that down, and we just kind of picked some random numbers. Nothing too exciting, nothing too difficult, just like, hey, here we go, here's the number. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to pick a number, and we're going to move into the next part in just a minute. So just a quick recap. If I have a number, let's say 2,743, I'm doing really hard not to say and 43, and you know how much I struggle with that, and you know how how difficult that can be. But remember, and tells us there's a decimal point. There's no decimal point. So we have 2,743. Now, a couple different things. First off, actually, let's change the color here. Let's go to green. We need to know what each of these are. 3 is in our ones place. We talked about that yesterday. This isn't new. 4 is in our tens. 7 is in our hundreds. And 2 is in our thousands. And that can just go on forever. If I had other numbers, if I had a 1 here, the 1 would be in our 10,000s, and then if there was another one, it'd be in our 100,000s, and then millions. Forever and ever, we'll be working with that. Now, first off, if I wanted to write this number in expanded form, I'm going to start with the 2. The 2 is in the thousands. I'm going to write it as 2,000, and then I'm going to add it plus 700 because we have 7 hundreds, and then 4 tens, which gives us 40, and 3 ones, which gives us 3. Again, if we're drawing that, we would have 2 cubes because these are equal to 1,000. I know I draw amazing. I hope you're all loving it. Then we have 700s, which would be 7 flats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 4 rods or four tens, which gives us that, and then 3 unit cubes. So that is the basics of what we did yesterday, just a little bit. So now we're going to go a little bit deeper today and move into, it's still place value, but it's place value using decimals as well. So just how I mentioned, I struggle with, like, if, with the number 2,700, if I were to say and 43, that number would actually look like this. So 2,700 and 43, because remember, our decimal point is that word and right there. So because of that, we need to avoid saying and unless we're talking about a decimal. So I'm going to leave this number. We're going to work with this one right here. And I'm going to write out the same thing up here, but we're going to include a little bit more. So I'm going to say and 4, 3. Let's do a 1 as well. Let's go all in right now with this decimal. So we have 2,000, so we know this is our thousands. We have 700, so we know this is our hundreds. Now, even though we don't say it, we we do still have these placeholders. That's essentially what zeros are. They're just placeholders. They tell us that there's nothing in that place value. So we still have our tens, but there's nothing there. And then we still have our ones place. Now, again, this is our and or our decimal. And then we have our 4. Now, our 4 is it's not the once place. There is no once, but there is a tenths place. Remember, there's a TH at the end of that, so it's, how I do in class, tenths. Then we have our 3 in our hundredths place, hundredths. There's a TH, remember? That TH tells us as in the decimal spot. And then our 1 that we just added on at the end there is in our thousandths place. Again, that TH at the end. So we've got all of that written out now. And we are going to write it in expanded form and then draw it out. So drawing is going to get the most confusing, but I think we'll be okay after we describe it a little bit. So first things first, we already know from the top problem how to do the 2,000 and the 700. So let's do that right now. We're going to take that 2,000 and add 700 because we have 2,000s and 700s, 2,700s. We don't have to do anything for the 10s and the 1s because we have 0 in those places. So there's nothing that it is going to do. Nothing it's going to do for us anyways. Next thing, we have to add these decimals in expanded form. So our next step would be to add 4 tenths. So by adding 4 tenths, we can just write it as a decimal point in 4. The next step is to add those 3 hundredths. So 3 hundredths, we still have our place value. In fact, let me put a 0 right here just so we know that that's there. I'm going to do the same here. So 0 and 3 hundredths. And last but not least, I'm going to write it right down below just so it's still visible. We have 0 and 1,000th. Thank you, Rorik. I do appreciate the participation in the chat. And yes, buffering does suck. Okay, so now here is the tricky part. We're going to draw it. Now we know how to draw 2,000. We know how to draw 700. So let's just do that really quick. I'm going to draw my 2,000. That's 1,000. And then here's my second 1,000. And then we're going to draw the 700. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 flats. So 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700. Okay. So we've got our 700. Now, we've got what can be kind of tricky sometimes. When representing your decimals, what you do for the drawing, so we'll start with 4 tenths. We draw what is a unit cube, which I know these are almost the same size. It's especially even up here, I didn't make them too different. But as long as you're aware that these are 100 and these are a unit cube, you draw a unit cube. However, I don't have a magnifying glass, but you have to imagine that this is just like super magnified right now. And I'll even do it in a different color. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to take this, which is usually 1, and I'm going to magnify it. Okay. So this is me magnifying it. Imagine you're like zooming in on this box right here. And then this, let's see, this is going to be my magnified box. So again, this is still a unit cube. I just zoomed in on it, and it kind of looks like a Santa hat now. A very poorly drawn one anyways. So you zoom in on it, and you're going to cut this into tenths because, again, we're talking about tenths. So 10, if we had 10 of these tenths, it would be 1 whole unit cube. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we'll cut this one 9. So even though it's very poorly drawn, I do apologize again. I've got 10 pieces. 9 lines make 10 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And because of that, I'm now going to shade in 4 of them. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So with that, I have now represented 4/10. So that is how you draw the 4/10. Now it gets even trickier with the hundredths. So what happens is we go over, and I'm going to do it over here because I'm running out of space. And then the thousandths, I will do on the next one. So we take that same unit cube. So imagine this is our unit cube, and we're going to zoom in on it, and we're going to make it a whole lot bigger. See if I can't make this a better picture. So that's me zooming in on it. Again, zoom, magnify, whatever you want to use to make it, to help it make sense. But you're zooming in on this one, except now you're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you broke it into tenths, except now you're breaking your tenths into tenths. You're making it even smaller. So you're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines. So now we have 100 squares. 100 squares in there. And because this is our hundredths place, we have 300. So what do? We color in those. We color in 3 of these squares. So it'd be any 3 squares really you want, just so they can be seen better. I'm going to do these ones right here. So I've got 1, 2, 3 squares, and that gives me 300ths. Now, our next and final step for drawing out this number here, we have the 1,000ths. Now, if we go back and we look at our previous picture, we have this giant cube here that represents 1,000. Well, if you notice anything, even though we're zoomed in on a single unit cube, we're still using our rods to represent 10, except these are tenths, and we're still using a flat to represent hundreds, even though these are hundredths. We're just zooming in on a specific one. So to represent thousandths, we are still going to, again, imagine you're like zoomed in on this thing, except now you've got this right here. You're adding some depth to what was once just a square. And then it would be the same thing, but essentially, you could draw this. I don't think there's going to be ever a math problem that asks you to color in your thousandths. I'm just kind of showing you what it might look like. And then because we only have one of them, you would just shade into one of these little cubes on here. So that is what we're going to do. Some more practice, mainly with this right here and writing it in expanded form and what the place value looks like. But I'm just going to do probably 2 more problems on that. Matthew, don't worry. I'm going to go over it again. And yeah, also you can go back and kind of rewatch the video when I post it onto the homework assignment. Also, Rorik, the video is probably going to go for maybe like 5 more minutes because I'm just going to go over 2 more numbers, 2 more problems, and that will be it. So let's turn the page here, flip it over, and let's do another number here. My number is going to be 340. 41, and 67. Okay. So once again, we have our hundreds, our tens, and our ones. Then we have our tenths. Again, that TH at the end tells us it's a decimal. And then we have our hundredths, which once again, that TH at the end tells us that it is a decimal and not actually worth that. If I were to write this in expanded form, I would say 300, because our 3 is in the hundredths. We have 300 plus 40. 40 in the tens place tells us we have 40 plus 1 plus 0 and 6 tenths plus 0 and 7 hundredths. Now, if you ever get a problem and it asks you, what is the value? Let's say it asks you, what is the value of the 6? And it might give you options like A, 6, B, 60, C, 6 tenths, or D, let's say, I don't know, this right here. C is going to be the answer that you're looking for. 1, because the decimal point is in the same place, but 2, because there's no added zeros or anything like that. And sometimes maybe it'll just write an answer like 6 tenths. Okay. So with that being said, let's do one more problem and then we can call this stream a day. So we have, let's do another number with 1,000 in it, but let's go all the way. So let's do 4,692 and 376. Okay. So one more time, I'm going to label everything for you because repetition is key. It helps you remember this. We have our thousands, not thousandths. There's no TH, so it tells us it's in front of the decimal. Then we have our hundreds, our tens, our ones. Then we have our decimal, or our and, whichever either way, that's what our decimal point is. Then we have our tenths. Remember, there is no oneths. There's only ones. There's never going to be a oneths place. So we have our tenths, our hundredths, and our thousandths. Don't forget the TH. TH says it's behind the decimal. If I were to write this in expanded form, it would look like 4,000 plus 600 plus 90 plus 2 plus 0 and 3 tenths plus 0 and 7 hundredths. And again, I ran out of space, so I'm going to write it right below, plus 0 and 6 thousandths. I'm not going to draw the picture because you probably won't be doing too much, but this is the math. So this is it for today. Again, we're just doing a tiny bit of review, nothing crazy. You just saw my cat walk by in the background. But with that being said, I will have a math assignment posted up here in probably the next 10, 15 minutes. It's going to be very small. And if you have any questions, go ahead and comment on that assignment and I can help you out. But again, this is a review. I think we're going to be okay. And yeah, Have a great day. See you tomorrow.